everyone, and welcome to B2B Purchase Procurement Series on Purchase Checklist for Access Equipments. Access equipments are becoming crucial today in the infrastructure construction and maintenance applications. With projects becoming bigger and taller, the need for working at heights using safer means has become imperative. Various mobile elevated work platforms and other access equipment provides better safety and productivity while working at heights compared to conventional means. The major application of access equipment vary from the construction and maintenance of infrastructure projects such as bridges, elevated metro projects, factories, airports, commercial buildings, and towers to industrial and engineering projects. Access equipments bring in safety, productivity, efficiency, and reliability compared to other conventional means of operations.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and privilege for me to introduce you our today's distinguished speakers. Mr. Ketan Patel, Vice President, Aerial Platform Association of India. Mr. Vishnu S. Reddy, Senior Regional Manager, JLG Industries India Private Limited. Mr. Shantwan Saxena, Head, Sales and Design, Appletree Building Maintenance Private Limited. And Mr. Sadin Sachdeva, Founder and Secretary General, Construction Equipment Rental Association, SERA. We believe that our speakers' contribution to this field is unparalleled, and this thought-provoking talk on this topic will be of a great benefit for us as well as our viewers. So delegates, get ready to witness an interactive session on purchase checklist for access equipment.
The first wave of pandemic already played a spoil sport on the industry as a whole. But after almost a year, the industry was on the recovery path with construction and maintenance activities back on track. But the second wave has again put a brake on the growth, especially in maintenance activities. So how do you see this impact on the access equipment market, Mr. Ketan?
Yes, Mr. Sudhir. The impact had been very bad when the first pandemic wave, which is in 2020, the last year. It was actually, and during the entire lockdown period, there was no revenue generation. And at the same time, there were fixed costs like manpower cost, interest, depreciations, and many other things. So basically, the expense was always on, but there was no revenue generation. And somehow the companies floated with whatever they had, they managed it. Then things started opening up, and again there was a second wave, and again we were put behind by 3 months. So all this put together, I believe, because everybody is in a different position. Somebody is there with a 15 machine size, somebody with 150, and somebody with 800. So I cannot give a very homogeneous answer to your question that how it has impacted everyone. Yes, for sure, it has impacted badly to everyone, but at a different level. So for the smaller size companies, for the mid-size companies, I believe, the procurement activity was completely stalled. They could not increase the fleet size, is what I would say. This is from the rental company's point of view, from the association point of view, and from the industry point of view. After that, there was a boom. Like people were just wanted to finish the projects, meet the timeline, and because of that, there was need of many equipments. But unfortunately, there was no supply. So this is what I would say, that this is how it is they've been hit. I'm not too sure whether my answer was satisfying or not, but I tried the best.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Mr. Ketan, for highlighting this challenging scenario. I know it's a challenging scenario, but then hope things are turning back. It's the turnaround time is not far, definitely.
Things are much better, I would say. In my own perspective, I see it much better than what it was last year.
And it was more or less very honest feedback from you, Mr. Ketan.
It's a fact.
Thank you, Mr. Ketan. Mr. Satin, what is your view on this? How do you look at this scenario?
See, COVID has certainly caused an acute disturbance for sure, and everything was on hold. The logistics was not there, nothing was there. So, but fortunately, we were still on 50% of it. Still 50% of our fleet. I mean, I'm talking about in terms of rental fraternity. 50% of the fleet was still working in the hardest, COVID times. It was tough and terrible times. But then infrastructure is still growing, and if we again compare it with other sectors, we are better off. And certainly it will pick up. It has certainly missed few deadlines in terms of project completions and all, but then thankfully we have that social distancing. I myself is working at one of the airport project in India, so that way I mean there itself I have seen a lot of the safety measures and security measures they are taking due to COVID. I mean, once you have entered and you cannot just came out usually like that. So the COVID norms are at place. I mean, it is better off. I mean, in terms of the second lockdown, we have more security, more safety measures at place. So I think now we're already coming to the normal part of it. So I think things will grow on from now on. And yes, there is a dent, there is an impact, and would like to comment on the recovery part also, because see, the rental business is a highly capital intensive business, and all of our rental friends, they are having some sort of loan or funding from some of the banks or financial institutions. So the EMI part is always there, So needless to say, I mean, in any case, in any of the tough times, you need to pay that installment on time. So you cannot be just back to the CIBIL, and cannot become a bad boy in the industry by not paying them. So GST you need to pay at every point of time. Government will not gonna leave you without that. So you need that cash flows which were not there in the COVID times. So we need to have the right rotation, the right cash flows in terms of paying back those funds to the banks and the financial institutions. So and this time I mean, the banks are also not that supportive, but then they are the best partners because they are funding us, and with the banks only we are growing. So they are an important stakeholder. So, but yes, there is a dent for sure, and I think it will gonna pick up. The business will pick up from now on, and it will cover on those losses. And for recovery part, we are coming up, and we are talking to various government bodies and departments to take the things forward in terms of recoveries, which is really bad at the moment. There is a delay of 3 to 6 months sometimes, which is not really acceptable. I mean, we need to pay the salaries and everything. So if the cash flows are not there, it is a bit difficult, to pay the debts back to that institution. And so we need to be, more secure in terms of, because life is precious. I mean, we cannot just, take it lightly in terms of COVID. So we need to have that standards, COVID standards that place in a right manner. But again, we are bullish. Yeah.
Yes, Sudhir, actually, I was just listening to Mr. Sachdeva, and you rightly pointed out that capital investment aspect, or you said that EMI has to be paid off on time, and this was one of the challenge for last 1.5 years, if you look at it, and how financial institutions or banks are extending their arm in this matter. Have you observed any kind of such initiatives from banks or financial institutions?
They are supportive for sure. I mean, they always support us well, but then they are also bound with the RBI regulations. So it's not like just I am borrowed some money with my friend and then I am taking an advantage of it. So you cannot do that with the banks. So in terms of paying back, you need to be like, I mean, very regular in terms of paying back that installment. So but they are supportive for sure. Last time the banks they've given some relief, but this time there is no relief as such, and hopefully I think we'll be able to make it. These are tough times, but then everybody together, I mean, will be taking it further with the right spirit.
Absolutely, and
we need to come out of it as soon as possible.
Yeah, and moreover, rental companies must be very keen to look at it how banks are going to support them.
Yes, we've always writing them, to banks and to to Honorable Nirmala Sitharamanji, and everybody. And we always got the support also. They've also always replied us in a better way. So fortunately, because it is more of government focus, as if now on infrastructure sector, it is the second largest sector. I mean, next to agriculture, it is the second largest sector as of now. So we are blessed to be a part of this sector.
Yeah, and that definitely will fuel the growth for the sector. Like what you said, say for procurement of this kind of equipment, finance is very essential and critical aspect to address. Mr. Reddy, also technology comes as one of the most priority aspect. Like what kind of technology disruptions you see around the globe? I mean, in this duration in access equipment space.
Actually, technology is changing over the periods. Like we mentioned, maybe in 2010, you could look at an aerial work platform and look at an aerial work platform in 2021. There's been a huge change in terms of safety aspects, like a sky guard coming in front of the basket, things like that have changed. But now I think it's going to be much more ahead of time. Things like telematics, connectivity, we call it the clear sky in JLG, where you could sit at your office space and look at how the machine is working, especially in the rental industry. The biggest pain point, even in India, is how do you maintain your machine? Who's looking at your machine when it's at site? So things like telematics, which will come very handy at this point of time in terms of handling the machine. But again, the safety side of it also, we have something like a sky sense, which is a radar which is monitoring your movement of the basket. So these kind of aspects will always be a change in the industry. And I'm sure we are very close to have machines moving with their remote controlled operation like we have. I'm sure that's going to come in. Job sites would have to become much more safer than they are.
Yeah, thank you for appraising about the technology aspect, Mr. Reddy. Yes, Sudhir, you are. Mr. Sachdeva want to contribute something.
Yeah, I was just listening to Mr. Vishnu. So the jugaad is not happening as if now. So if the technology, I mean, we have the right technology at place, this old version of jugaad somehow is not happening. So the major shift is over to new equipments now with the right technology and with the right, combination and the right alignment is required now. So the jugaad, which earlier was there in India, so we do jugaad we did it for every damn thing, but somehow it is not happening anymore. And it is all about adaptation of new technology, new machines, and not just, those old equipments. They're not working as if now. All of these major institutions like BMRC, departments, they have make it mandatory to have, the young fleet of equipments. So
yes,
it is say around 2 to 3 years, old equipment. They are not accepting any other old equipment. So we do have some old equipment, the rental fraternity do have some, but then we need to have the right expertise. We need to be into the right kind of maintenance, and we are seeking help from the OEM only. The manufacturers are the best one to have to give us the right technology, the right repairs, the right painting. Unfortunately, we are not having those skilled technicians here for sure. But yes, things are improving. A lot of skilling is happening, and things will definitely be picking up. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. With the skill development, things are going to pick up. Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Sachdeva. Mr. Shantwan, some contractors still use conventional means of, equipment like maybe bamboo and the scaffolding for maintenance work, especially on tall buildings and structures, which is dangerous to life for the workers. So how do you look at this? What is your view on this, and what are your suggestions?
So like you have mentioned, there are some contractors which are using the bamboo scaffolding with the taller buildings, high-rise buildings. We should basically not recommend it because it is not safe. The wind loads are high for the taller buildings. Secondly, when it comes to the maintenance, there is a subsequent amount of the cost involved. Suppose it's a 30-story building, and if one needs to replace a glass at the 29th floor, he needs to put the scaffolding right from the ground floor to the 29th floor to replace the glass. First of all, the cost will be more. It is not safe. Secondly, the ground clearance would not be favorable because the building is operational. There is a possibility some porch is coming, there is a ramp. So for that purpose, I think the decision maker should consider the maintenance of the facade during the design stage only. So the methodology should be provided by the facade contractor when he is putting the facade. Then in case the facade breaks or the glass breaks, how is going to replace that one? So the methodology has to be in the place. In case it has to be done through the temporary suspended access system, so a clear space at the terrace is required. If it is not, in that case, the glass replacement system has to be incorporated into the BMU system, like a GRU on the BMU. So this is how we can cater for the requirement for the glass replacement. So for the taller building, in my purview, it is not at all recommended to use the scaffoldings.
Okay. Yeah, definitely that is very risky for the workers and overall the project construction or maintenance. But then why it is so still it is going on? Maybe is it because of the cost or lack of awareness among the players? What do you see?
It is basically about less awareness. People are not educated about this one. They don't know the right means, whom to approach. Probably that's the reason. In fact, I witnessed in 2015 at one of the iconic project wherein the bamboo scaffolding were used, and it was tilting due to the wind loads and things like that. And one fine day, it just fell. The complete bamboo scaffolding fell onto the facade itself. So there was a lot of damage to the glass, and thankfully no loss of life because it was a Sunday afternoon. Everyone was a lunch break. So thankfully there was no loss of life, but then the glass was damaged, and this is one of the iconic project. I cannot name the project, but I saw it personally.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much for sharing about it. Actually, in our Q&A box, Mr. Anirban Ghosh shared a couple of views. One of the view what he shared is all machines that are imported in use conditions from outside India and in use should be used with the original year of manufacturing. Any changes in original year of manufacturing to help facilities acceptance result into safety or productivity of these machines. And all used equipments after import must be registered with the new owner to provide better support to the AWP owners from OEM. Do you have any views to share with Mr. Ghosh? Ketan sir?
Mr. Ghosh, what he's asking is basically there should not be any fiddling with YOM, and I completely agree with him because that's not safe, and we don't do this with any of the equipment, be it an AWP or let's take for an instance a car, like on a used car people try to change the kilometer reading on it, but the age is always old, so it is certainly not recommendable.
One more question came from Mr. Umesh. He was specifically asking to you that you told that without operator.
Right. Yes, Mr. Umesh. So basically it's a challenging thing to do, but this is what the world is doing, and the answer is that yes, for your answer of damages we have insurance in place, which is a tedious process to follow, but we need to do that. My personal approach, again, as I'm saying, is that as I'm running a rental company as well, is sometimes I realize that am I doing a renting business or am I doing running an HR company, managing and maintaining the operators, their problems, running away from sites, the HRs, the PF and all those things. So I realize that lots of unproductive time goes into that. So if we look at the pros and cons of the situation, a machine without an operator is always beneficial. Think about it. If this was a problem everywhere else in the world, today they would have been doing the same thing what we are doing. So this is the best what I can answer to this, Mr. Umesh, that yes, there is a problem of unattended thing, but at the same time, not every day anybody is going into and have an accident or something. The other thing is that this is specifically why I've been emphasizing on training the operator, whether it is a wet lease or whether it is a dry lease. So that is why IAC comes into picture and the training modules comes into the picture. I hope I've been able to answer this.
Yes, thank you so much.
Also,
I'm
all
sure.
from my side. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I'm sure
Sachin ji
Mr.
wants to
Umesh
say.
must be satisfied with the answer. Yes, Mr. Sachdeva also want to contribute to it. Yes.
Add one more thing where we are evolving, as a rental company. The periodic inspections is required, in terms of good professional inspections are required in India, wherein we are lacking, if you're sending a machine. I mean, if it is a dry lease model, you'll have to be very careful. Maybe you'll have to do an audit, kind of a thing for your machine periodically, maybe once or twice in a month, or maybe once in 2 months, or in a quarter, something like that. But you need to be very careful. And in terms of dry lease, we are unfortunately lacking this model. Majorly, we have this wet lease model in India in terms of all the categories combined together. So in dry lease model, yes, we need to keep an eye, and we need to have the right inspections, at the place, and then I think it will really be helpful. Periodic professional health checkup is required in terms of dry lease. In wet lease, although that we are already doing, but in terms of dry lease, where our operator is not there, or our concerned person is not there, then just for that health report, we need to do that, mandatory periodic inspections. This is required.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sachdeva. We have Mr. Vijay Singh. Vijay, I think you have a question, right? Mr. Reddy, would you like to go for first?
Yeah, I would go for that. That's a lovely question to answer. That's why I took it first. But if there's one thing that could change the way the industry works, is its regulations for safety. If we all get together and get the regulations right, I'm sure we're looking at a very different industry. Like Mr. Vijay Singh mentioned, in Singapore, in a small 40-kilometer country, I think we have about 6,000 machines. So you can imagine, multiply the number of times to get, even if you had to cover the 5 major cities in India. And with less than 8,000 machines in the country, you can see the opportunity. But more than the safety concern and the regulations come into play, I'm sure that's going to be better. So if one thing that we all could do together is get the regulations with the government.
I can add on to Mr. Reddy. Specifically, rules passed by NSCI, National Safety Council of India. Like in Singapore, it just reminded me that, there's a rule that if you need to work at any height above 6 meters, you need to use an AWP, even if it's a residential apartment. That's what the rule is what I understand. Correct me if I'm mistaken. So such rules will generate demand, and it's not an artificial demand. It's a safety demand. So I would put it that way. Sometimes, demand can be questioned whether it's right or, required or not required. But it is all for a good cause. It's for a safety purpose. So this is what I would say. And everybody else has to, I already am seeing a difference. If I look 10 years back, we used to do a lot of cold calls selling them. We are selling safety equipment. So when I used to be at the entry gate of a plant, they used to say, "Sir, please don't come in. I don't want any safety shoes, any harness, any jackets or anything." Now today, we are seeing that we get inquiries by the name of boom lift, man lift, cherry pickers, telescopic boom, and articulating boom. This has just happened in 6 to 7 years. So this has happened because of all the players, everyone. And there's one word, I don't use a word for competitors, I call them cousins. So all the cousins who worked with us, that is what they have helped us to come so far, and we should continue that thing.
Thank you so much, Ketan sir. Coming back to Mr. Sachdeva, looking at, we have discussed various aspects of access equipment business here. So you also even mentioned about the renting business side of access equipment. How will you conclude this session?
I have to conclude this session. I mean, understand that we have to have the right penetration, and let us be, positive about, whatever has happened, that's a past, and let's take it now to another level. And we still need some part of standardization is required, adaptation of technology and adaptation of good skilling practices is still lacking a bit, but we are evolving. But then we need to pick up with the right pace with the world. Globally, we need to have the right pace and with the right mindset, and let's together, all of us, take it forward and in terms of penetration, what Mr. Vijay was asking, that we are already doing. All the associations are working hard in terms of promoting the rental concept in India, which was not there in India earlier, but now it has picked up very well. I mean, if you see to last 3-4 years, it has picked up really well. I mean, there is a growth of it. It is an exponential growth, and the growth. And earlier, what was happening is, I mean, if some rental company is having one category of equipment, we're bound to have that particular kind of category. But now the things are better off, and people are going into different categories. The one who was owning a dozer, now he's having a piling rig, he's having a crane with him. So everybody is diversifying now. So this is the time for India, for sure. A big, massive growth is here. I mean, so together with the right practices, we'll definitely be able to achieve this target in terms of rental penetration, and precisely about, because this topic is here, the chapter is all about AWP. AWP, as I said, they are already an organized sector, but still we are lacking if we compare ourselves with different developed countries. I mean, if we really compare ourselves, we need to have with the right numbers. I think very soon we'll be able to achieve good number. And as of now, what I got to know is there are some 9,000 AWPs. I think it is still less, and let's take it forward with the exponential growth. Yeah, and together.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Saxena, for being very optimistic, and let's spread the optimism. Yes, Mr. Saxena, what is your closing remark in one sentence?
So basically, now we are getting good requirement for the project, which are high-rise skyscraper projects, and the inquiries are increasing day by day. The development is happening. So we just need to focus on the right approach, right solution, based on the project requirement, and keeping all the consideration into account while proposing a system. So this will give a good business opportunity to all of us in this field.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saxena. Mr. Reddy, your closing remarks.
I think it's an exciting time for the industry. I think we've seen the hard part go through. I think it's going to be good days ahead. I'm sure it'll take a few more years before we really see it, but I'm sure it's, and of course, as a group, our responsibility is to send that operator or the person working on the machine safe home when he goes back from work. So I hope we all can do that with regulations or the way we work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reddy. Last but not least, Ketan sir.
Yeah, one sentence is too short for me, I guess. But yeah, what I would like to say is that India has a lot of potential. It's a vast country. There's a lot of place to do it. In one word, I would say it's a question of affordability. This is a product which everybody wants, but it's a question is people are not able to afford it. Either you buy it or you want to rent it. Like for example, I would talk about facade maintenance. They get paid for 2 rupees or 3 rupees per square feet is what I understand, something like that. Maybe my numbers are wrong. Now, how can anybody think of affording any of the system which we displayed over here to clean that up? So a best example, which I will end is, it's like a smartphone. There is a demand, but when they were expensive, you can understand who were using it. And now, the moment the menu cost has come down, everybody is having a smartphone. And the other example is that 15 years back or 17 years back, we never used to buy our groceries from D-Mart and Heiko and shops like that. And today 80% are doing that. We never thought that we would be drinking Cokes and Colas out of can. This is exactly the same concept. We still think that, okay, fine, we cannot do it. But today is a time that, yes, I travel to US, I see one Caesar parked outside Walmart, and Spencer's and everything is parked near to a few cars. Same situation is happening in India also. So in short, it's a question of affordability, and affordability is what you call tagged to many other trends. It is just not that the cost of the product should be less. It's like a booming of economy. If I have more money, I can buy it at the same price. So that's all from my side.
We hope you enjoyed the B2B procurement series. Before wrapping up today's session, I would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Ketan Patel, Mr. Vishnu Reddy, Mr. Shantwan Saxena, and Mr. Satin Sachdeva. I would also like to thank our executive editor of B2B Purchase magazine, Mr. Sudhir, and our editor, Mr. Prasad Nair, for taking this initiative. So with this, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. I request you to stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you and goodbye.